Dear students, in the process of learning and using Incoterms, do you have such confusions? Too much content? Don't understand? Unable to use? Do you still have such troubles? Difficult to learn? Too tedious and boring? In today's class, let's break the code of Incoterms to explore the mysteries of trade terms together. So, let's start with an animation. Xiao Wang was a foreign trade salesperson of a clothing foreign trade company A who just graduated from college this year. Recently, he took over an export order that was under negotiation. The Japanese buyer proposed that the deal will be agreed as long as the CFR price is changed to the DDP price. Xiao Wang was eager to make a deal to show himself. He agreed to the request without thinking. Unexpectedly, the scale of Company A was too small. It was unable to clear Japanese customers. The cargo was stranded at a Japanese port. Company A can only increase the cost to search for a third party to assist in handling. They almost exceeded the contracted delivery date. Xiao Wang was severely criticized for this matter. He felt very depressed. Xiao Wang, as an international trade practitioner, rigorous and meticulous work are the most basic requirement. If you do not take your business seriously, the likeliest result is to damage the credibility of enterprise. If it is serious, it may affect the good brand image of our enterprises. It will even damage the Chinese image of our country. I know I was wrong, but how can we really understand and apply so many trade terms? Don't worry, I'm going to teach you 3 knacks today. The first knack is like extracting silk from cocoons. The key to deciphering a trade term is to understand its meaning and characteristics. In fact, since the official introduction of Incoterms in 1936, the ICC has revised it several times. The latest revision is Incoterms 2020. However, the release of the new version does not mean that the old version is invalid as long as the version used is indicated in the contract. Let's take 11 terms in Incoterms 2020 as an example. Although each trade term has only 3 short letters, it implies 4 elements such as risk, responsibility, cost, and transportation. Risk refers to the demarcation point from which the buyer and the seller are responsible for the goods, respectively. The risk is transferred only at the place of delivery. This transfer point may be in the seller's warehouse, at the first carrier port of export, alongside, on board, or at destination, etc. Responsibility refers to the respective responsibilities of the buyer and the seller. It consists of 2 parts. Part 1 is the basic responsibility of both parties common to all terms. For example, the seller needs to issue a timely notice of shipment and complete the inspection of the goods in time, etc. The second part is specific responsibilities under different terms, including who is responsible for buying insurance, who is responsible for shipping, for import, and export customers' declaration, etc. Costs and responsibilities are relative. They mainly refer to the cost content borne by both parties and their respective responsibilities, such as the cost, freight, insurance, import and export customers, declaration fees, etc. The last one is the mode of transportation. As maritime transport accounts for the vast majority of international trade, there are some terms which are specially suitable for maritime and inland waterway transportation. The remaining terms apply to any mode of transportation. Let's look at these 4 elements using CIF as an example. Let's start with risk. The goods complete the transfer of risks and costs on board the ship of the exporting country. In terms of responsibilities and expenses, since CIF includes insurance and freight, although the seller has completed the delivery, he also needs to bear the freight and insurance to the destination. Finally, from the perspective of transportation methods, delivery on board cannot do without a ship. CIF can only be used for maritime and inland water transportation. The second neck, permutation and combination. On the basis of understanding the connotation of trade terms, we divide the terms into 4 groups according to their initials. According to the delivery location and cost structure, we arranged the trade terms on a diagram. First up, Group E, EXW. This is a term that minimizes the seller's risk and responsibility. Next group is Group F, FCA, first carrier delivery, FAS, free alongside, FOB, free on board. Group F terms are characterized by the fact that the place of delivery is in the exporting country, and the seller is only responsible for the risks and expenses before delivery. The third is Group C. The typical feature is that the risk and cost transfer points are separate. That is to say, although the seller has completed the delivery and risk transfer in the exporting country, it needs to continue to be borne the freight or the insurance premium to the destination. Both CFR and CIF are delivered on board. The seller bears the additional freight under CFR, but under CIF, the seller has to bear the insurance premium. Both CPT and CIP are delivered by the first carrier. Similar to the previous group, the former continues to bear the freight after delivery. The latter will also have to bear the insurance premium. And finally, Group D, 3 terms for delivery to destination. This is the most risky set of terms for sellers. The difference is DAP, delivery without unloading, DPU, delivered after unloading, DDP, delivered after duty paid. The third neck, defeat the enemy. Let's look at how to choose the right trade terms in practical trading from the seller's perspective. First, consider the transportation conditions. If you have the ability to transport it yourself and it is economical, when exporting, you can consider using CIP, CIF, or CFR, because these terms include shipping costs, and the seller is responsible for handling the transportation. Why not do it for self-production and self-sales? Second, consider the characteristics of the goods. Different goods are suitable for different transportation modes. If water or ocean transportation is used, preference should be given to FAS, FOB, CFR, and CIF, because these four terms can only be used for water transportation. The risks and responsibilities in the delivery process can be more carefully divided. Third, consider the freight factor. Due to the frequent fluctuations in freight rates on international trade routes, if the freight rate is likely to rise, then try to export according to the terms of Group F. They can better avoid losses caused by rising freight rates. Fourth, consider transportation risks. If the shipping time is long, natural disasters, accidents, even destabilizing factors such as war could all come to you. In this case, try not to use Group D terms, because the cargo only be delivered at the destination. Risks during long transportation can only be borne by the seller. And finally, consider whether the import and export customs clearance procedures is difficult. If the seller is unable to clear customs in the importing country, or the customs clearance requirements of the importing country are higher or take longer, then don't choose DDP rashly like Xiao Wang. Because under DDP, the seller needs to be responsible for the customs clearance procedures of both parties. Dear students, in this class, we cracked the Incoterms code with 3 tricks. Understanding the components of trade terms, master the characteristics of trade terms, learn how to choose the right trade terms in combination with the actual situation. Here we go. Let's check the learning results. Please scan the QR code on the screen to practice according to what you learn. Thank you.